Welcome to the exploration of consciousness.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Exploration of Consciousness. I'm your host, Matt Presti. Joining me today is Mr. John Bonsall, the current president of the University of Science and Philosophy, formerly the Walter Russell Foundation, is located at the Russell Museum and USP headquarters, 518 West Main Street in beautiful downtown Waynesboro, Virginia. Good morning, Mr. John. How are you today?
Good morning, Mr. Presti. I am wonderful. I am wonderful.
Very good, very good. John, as you guys may or may not know, took over for me at the University of Science and Philosophy. He was my handpicked person to receive the leadership role in this institution. And I based that solely, in large part at least, on his volunteerism, which was unparalleled. He did receive the Volunteer of the Year award for 2020, putting in probably over at least close to 1,000+ hours. He was my right-hand man, as they say, in decorating the museum, which was a colossal effort. And you can view John's work at philosophy.org. While I'm talking, John, I'm just going to probably share the screen here and let people see the website. So there's the website. If you go to About, you can hit Faculty, and there's our current president, Mr. Bonsall. And just a little down the way is some of your presentations you presented at the 2016 homecoming on the practicality of spirituality. And it is very practical, the Russell cosmology, philosophy, and natural science, and universal law, the living philosophy, very practical indeed. And then you also presented on business ethics, which is sorely missing in our current environment of the world state of affairs. We'll get into that more as well, too. And also, John and I did a short interview when I ran the interviews on philosophy.org for the university. Just click over here on videos, folks, and then hit interviews. And you can see I did 9 episodes there, and John Bonsall was number 9 there. So that gives a little bit of our history in terms of the move and things like that. But we're going to discuss just a few other things in regard to current events. We're going to talk about the Russell Science a little bit. But real quick, John, just to catch people up, for those who may or may not know about your background, just give us a little bit of the background of who John Bonsall is and how you came to discover the work of Walter and Leo Russell.
All right, Matthew, be glad to. So my journey with the Russells began in the summer of 1975, working my way through college, and my cousin Jim Porter just happened to visit me, and he was holding one of the units to the Russell's home study course, and I asked him to let me look at it, and I don't know. I think I don't even know that I got a paragraph in and had that aha moment. There it was. Boom. It was just something that resonates with you. And that began my journey. And so when I finished my education in December of 1976, Jim and I traveled to Waynesboro, Virginia, Swannanoa Palace, met Mrs. Russell, and we wanted to volunteer and work for her, work for the message. And so we did that for approximately 2 years, 1976, 1977. And then left the palace and went on to my own personal journey from there. And these principles that you learn, in these teachings, they carry you for a lifetime, and they carry you further than that. And so I was very fortunate to be able to incorporate these principles into my my lifestyle and my works, if you will, my occupations. And there was a little bit of a mystery, though, that surrounded my efforts. People couldn't figure it out, and so later on in my career, I tried to share it with those that asked, but They couldn't get it. So, anyway, so Matthew, you bestowed the presidency upon me. I took over, I believe it was August 11th, 2021.
Correct.
Yeah. And, but as I look back, Matt, over my life, the thought always was in the back of my mind, to someday play an instrumental role in delivering this message. And thank you for the opportunity to fulfill that dream and that vision on my end. And so here I am, carrying the torch, moving things forward. And we've had a robust 16 months, here at the university, and things are happening. We're excited. Um, so that's kind of who I am. I mean, I've been in Virginia since 1976, and I got a little 30-acre gentleman's farm. Got a couple horses, a couple kitty cats, not anything. I'm a bit of a loner. I have um, my friend Karen, my beloved, that keeps me straight. And so here we are, brother. And thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for having me here this morning.
Oh, you're most welcome, bud. You're also endearingly, or at least were at one time, endearingly referred to by the university's board of directors as, quote, the dark one. Would you? Hey, I never said this was going to be a walk in the park interview. No
Right.
softball getting lobbed.
Man, talk about, that was a woo.
A doozy. I'm a left-hander, so I throw them
Yes.
curveballs, right?
Well, to help your listeners know, after Leo's death, the university kind of went through a dark period, if you will. And those that were chosen to fill in, lead the message, and so on, really didn't have a true understanding of how this whole thing works. And one at a time, they fell through, they failed. But how I got that title was that for years, I fought to keep, this message on the mountain at Swannanoa Palace. And unfortunately, I failed in that effort. And so since those in charge didn't know what to do, they decided to take Walter Russell's lifetime worth of works. They bundled it up, put it in a warehouse, and that's where it sat for 20 years. And so anyway, in my battle with the board and the powers to be, I pushed them pretty hard. But where the dark one came from, you'll love this story. So as a student, and all students of the university have the opportunity, should they elect to speak in front of our board. That's one of the rights that they have. So I made that request. They couldn't turn me down. So in that battle, I had, I think it was 8 board members at the time, and I had 8 black folders that compiled certain information on the board members. And so I handed them out in this meeting, and I said, if you keep the message on the mountain, you won't need to open them. But if you don't, you might want to open these and take a read. So anyway, I couldn't help. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit, and your audience will appreciate this, Matt. So you remember when you introduced me to the board in that May meeting?
Yeah.
And then it was a little bit of a silence. People were kind of scratching their head like, we've heard that name before. And
not that guy.
Yeah, and then I think it was Dr. Tim or somebody that wasn't actually on the video part. You just heard this voice in the background said, is he the dark one? I don't know how in the heck they voted me in, but they must have counted pretty heavily, Matt, on your recommendations. I think I could figure.
Well, that's fun because, again, you guys also, the student body I talked about this in a previous interview, but the student body was very upset with not necessarily the board, but the administration in the early 2000s because they were changing Walter and Leo's work. They were literally changing words and taking things out. to upgrade them to society's current standards of morality and all this
Yes.
other stuff, and you guys were golden in your resistance and making a statement about the reasons why you shouldn't do that. And I compared that to which drop of paint would you remove from the Mona Lisa, or what notes would you take out of Mozart's, most famous symphonies. You really do a great disservice when you put yourself before the work of other genius, before the work of genius, period. Because
Yes.
number
Yes.
one, it's not your work. And I would cuss here, but because this is a university interview, I'm going to try to be as cordial as possible so that you can share this on your social media platforms.
Okay.
But it's the absolute perfect demonstration of hubris is to put yourself before those whose works you're seeking to uphold or to share. I mean, if you're sharing it doesn't matter who it is, if it's Tesla, if it's Wilhelm Reich, if it's Victor Schauberger's work, you
Hmm.
don't change their work to suit your points of view. You protect their work. You make an oath, in other words, a solemn promise not to change any of it, but to protect it. Because in 100 years from now, society could, society's mores, or the morals of peoples, shift, just like
Yes.
how political parties might be on one side of an issue. 50 years later, they might be on the complete other side, which is what we're seeing
Hmm.
right now. The Republican used to be for big business. Now it's against big business. It wants for what's good for the common working man. And that's
Hmm.
how Herbert Spencer talked about in his book, The Man versus the State, about how political parties can completely do 180s when it
Yes.
comes to their principles. So, but the importance I'm trying to push here is that the student body basically revolted against an administration previous, which we won't name, fine. But the point being that people decided upon themselves that they could improve on Walter and Leo Russell's work, which is a pure example of hubris. And so when I came in, and I've done this in other organizations, I'll say, but I respect the will of its membership. And the membership, the voting body, really, wants the work to be preserved as it is without changes, which is what Walter and Leo wanted themselves. They specifically told everybody not to mess with anything. Don't change an I or a T or any of it. You know,
Hmm.
maybe a spelling mistake, the obvious, but as far as the message itself, the demonstration of their knowledge in written works, that is to be preserved. And so my uh, my mission statement was more or less, or my motto, you could say, in my presidency, my tenure, was preserving the Russell legacy. So why don't you tell us a little bit, how has this, gone, where have you gone from as far as my administration, as a mission statement, as a focal point of preserving the Russell legacy? What would you say your mission statement is at this point?
Well, you know how they say a picture's worth 1,000 words? So I'm going to just kind of slide out of the picture just for a moment. And in the background, below the octave wave painting, in the background there, you'll see a golden shield. And what that shield represents is similar, Matt, to what you said. Our goal, my goal as president, is to preserve and protect. And as you mentioned earlier, Matt, other people felt that their opinions and the way they see life was more important. So they took it on their own to rewrite our official curriculum, and that can never happen. That can never be. And so that's my goal. That's my mission statement to the world, is that should you choose to um, study our curriculum, that you will get, quote, the real deal, as the Russells wrote it, as it was intended, unmolested, unchanged in its original form. And I am proud to say that in the, let's see, 15 months, is it coming up on 16 months of our administration, um, we've been able to update, colorize, and reformat our official curriculum, the home study course. And we have half of it available from the press. So we've been told in the next 2 weeks it'll be complete, and so we are so excited to offer that to our student body and all new students. So that's where we are, Matt. That's what my mission is. I don't have to rewrite anything. How am I going to improve, like you mentioned on a Mona Lisa? How am I going to improve on any of Dr. Russell's artwork, right? I don't need to. It's already done.
Right. I think that's one of the 5 laws of success is humility. And only humble people should be in charge of a great master's work, in my personal opinion. Because if your ego gets in front of anybody's work, it becomes about you and not about the work you're trying to protect. And so many foundations, so many societies, so many organizations who at first make it a mission to protect a great genius's or master's work, that ends up happening. It's not solely exclusive to our organization, but it happened nonetheless. We were able to return the 3rd edition home study course back to the actual flagship curriculum, away from this 4th edition. And if anybody does have the 4th edition, what I used to tell them, if they, unfortunately, that's all they could get at the time, because we were very limited on funds under my administration, so we couldn't reprint it at the time until much later in the course of my tenure. But we did actually do it, thankfully. And I just recommend anybody does have the 4th edition and you see a minus sign, meaning connoting negative electricity, just draw a line through it. Take a ruler and draw a nice little line to make it positive. And that'll pretty much correct a lot of the science drawings that were reinserted incorrectly into it. But enough on that topic.
All right.
Just great job you're doing. Keep it going. I like to preserve and protect. That's as good as it can get, and that's the responsibility we owe to protecting the work of masters, really, truly. And so I guess this leads me to we had mentioned briefly prior to the interview by phone about doing a coupon code specifically. So I put this little thing together. Check this out, John.
All right.
Voila. What do you think?
Well, Matthew, I can see that what you did is you went ahead, instead of, we discussed this earlier today. You thought, let me get my thoughts correct here.
Well, you guys gotta make the code, but you decide what items, let's just say, are available for that code.
Well, what we'll do, Matt, for this special interview that you're doing, anything in our bookstore, we will honor that, and we'll do a straight 20% across the board discount for any of your listeners that choose to participate. And so appreciate you putting the code on there, and we will honor that.
That's great. Well, listeners, please visit philosophy.org/store. You're supporting the legacy of both Walter and Leo Russell with a purchase, and you're also giving yourself the keys to overcoming the impossible. That's what this curriculum teaches. There is no longer such a thing as impossible. Impossible becomes I'm possible. So,
yes, I like that. I like
from Audrey Hepburn, who said impossible actually really truly means I'm possible. So
yes,
there's your code, folks. I'll run this again, but so yeah, John, let's go on. You and I worked together over a period of about 9 months, which is exactly the gestation period of a baby being born. And your dream from this morning about going through sort of a birthing canal into a land where a golden river with all opportunity opens up. Why don't you go into that a little bit?
Man, that was amazing, Matt. I'll tell you, and I hope that your audience is comfortable. Because you and I, we use the word creator, the divine God, the undivided, the white light, the united. So whatever their comfort level is, or what each individual's comfort level is with the word. But one of the secrets one of the secrets to success is listening to that silent voice within. So think of what's available today. For example, Matthew, I'll hold up a phone, right? Now you got to give Apple and those guys credit. Man, have they hooked the world on that? So people can go as deep into that phone as they want to do. And the deeper you go into that phone, the longer you spend on that phone, the more that you block your creator out and you block that silent voice out. But if you can learn to acknowledge and listen to that silent voice, it will guide you. And so I'm fortunate enough to have been I'm a 48-year student now of these teachings and have that understanding. And so you have to spend some time in the silence. Walter Russell would encourage people to spend time in nature. And so wherever it is today that you can find that silence, whether it's, at a beach or whatever it may be, but listen to that silent voice. Dr. Russell, this cracked me up, Matt. I'm listening to one of the lectures that Dr. Russell gave in 1952. And he just happened to be walking with this lady, and they were on a nature trail. And Dr. Russell was actually talking about meditation and communion and listening to that silent voice. And so anyway, Walter Russell, this young lady, they're walking on the path, and she turned and looked at him. She goes, do you ever stop talking? She says, I'm trying to find some aloneness out here. She said, I appreciate you walking with me, but, can we just have some silence? So 360 Illuminate gets chastised on a nature walk. But anyway, this vision that I received, Matt, it was amazing. And, we're nonprofit, okay? And we exist on contributions and charitable donations to us. And but God put in front of me in this vision, this river of gold, and that's my interpretation. It was just like flowing at me, like lava would, but even at a faster pace. And what was amazing, what brought me out of this vision was the words, "It is done." Now, and I know when we use the term, this is God's message, right? But your audience needs to know that there's our timing, and then there's the Creator's timing.
Right.
And we have to be patient. So you were asking me, okay, John, what's your role? How do you say it? So for right now, the big part of my role is to be patient, to listen, and to have this beautiful museum ready for all those who choose to come visit so that they can see the embodiment. They can see the embodiment of our teachings. I was thinking, Matt, earlier this morning, didn't know if it would come up, in our discussion today, but haven't been there, but you see pictures, but I was thinking of how miraculous, the Vatican is inside, the artwork, the marble, the magnitude of beauty. But it also came to me what was missing. You have
Universal One.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to play that clip in just a little bit. So,
and but that's what separates us from everything else that is out there. Our science. So if people want to choose, if they elect to want to know their Creator and how things come into being and how things disappear, we have that answer. It was given to Walter Russell in his grand illumination in 1921. Now, some people, they don't need that, right? They go on faith, or they have their own understanding, or they might see it in nature. But that's the separation from this message and all else that was delivered, is that the science now can improve the existence of the Creator, prove your relationship to the Creator so that you can have a wonderful life, living a purposeful life instead of a purposeless life of just existing.
Right. Hey, real quick, try not to tap the table.
Oh, sorry.
That comes through on the recording. And
all right.
but yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's God's time and there's our time. And what do they say? The greatest virtue is patience, right?
Yes.
And patience is the greatest virtue, the golden virtue. And that
Hmm.
was really, of all the 7 years I served with the university, which I actually started unofficially, Michael put me to work in August of 2014, and I left in August of 2021, which is exactly 7 years.
Awesome.
Richard Dulaney, who's also on our board, says I only served 6 and some months, but actually it was actually all truth, 7 years to the month.
Mm,
So
that's
that's right
awesome.
in accord with my vision of February 2nd,
Well,
2015.
can I share a story with
Please,
your audience?
sure.
Now, this is we kind of call this inside humor. Those that are close to the message, Matthew, you'll understand
Well,
where I'm
we
going
should
with
have a
this.
lot of that in this discussion. Ah,
So, for your audience, just know that Dr. Russell received his grand illumination in 1921 on his birthday, May 19th. And Dr. Russell wrote this grand illumination down in what we know as the Divine Iliad. 30,000 words without an erasure or a correction.
39, 39,000.
Yes, yes. So, anyway, so towards the end of Dr. Russell's illumination, God says, do this for me, deliver my message to humanity, and your reward will lie beyond the grave. Okay. So, in a follow up to that, God says to Dr. Russell, what I have given thee is but a thimble of your oceans.
A
And it's kind of
thimbleful of
difficult.
knowledge out of an
So,
ocean.
anyway, so in my private meditations, once in a while, because Leo told me that God has a sense of humor. So I believe that. So once in a while, I'll say to God, now listen, I'm leading your message now. Okay. I'm carrying it forward. And I know what you promised, Dr. Russell. But is there any chance that my reward could come before the grave? So they say don't test God. So anyway, I'm thinking, well, if he's got a sense of humor, whatever's to be will be.
That's funny. John, guys, you got to understand, John. I also, my term for him was not the dark one, but rather the cosmic jester in every
Hmm.
sense of the word. This guy,
That's right. I forgot about that.
well, I'd come in some days when we were decorating and I was down and I was like, man, we don't have the money. This Fire Life company wants us to do $30,000 in repairs to the sprinkler system. We don't have it. You
Mm.
know, maybe we ought to not open this museum. And he'd say something just totally off the wall. And I'd just bust out laughing. Next thing you know, we're back on ladders for 6 to 8 hours, just painting
Mm.
paintings and, measuring in every way divine with rulers and everything else. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's your sense of humor saved me a few times. So they say God puts people in your path for a reason,
Mm.
especially when you're on a mission. Certain people come along that can help you complete that mission. And this mission was a 7 year long one that took, many years of mental focus and holding that thought. Again, we've talked about this 60 to 80,000 human thoughts a day. Which one are you going to hold?
That's right.
And this was one that I held, and the right people came along at the right time. And especially you with the sense of humor. Again, we probably wouldn't have the situation we have if we didn't have these interpersonal relationships and connections
Yes.
that I really think are divine deliverances, if you will. They're always delivered right on time. And that's one of the things that when you begin to listen to that still small voice, you create a dialogue with it moment to moment.
Oh yeah.
Whatever
That's
things
key.
pop into your field of experience, when you need a synchronicity because you're already living a synchronistic life and you're aware of the still small voice, which you'll notice the more you're in tune with that moment to moment divine source, that still small voice, the greater synchronicities occur in your life. And that includes people coming into your life as needed. There's one story I want to tell real quick, and then we're going to go to a clip by Dr. Russell talking about the Pope threatening
Okay.
him with the Universal One reprint. The we had to move a piano up those 7 stairs from the lower mezzanine to the upper mezzanine. So the main show, the main gallery up to the upper mezzanine level, and there were only 4 of us. And my daughter and Darren looked at me and goes, "We're not going to get this up those stairs. Can we call a moving company?" So Cindy calls a moving company and she asks, how much would it cost to get a couple guys out here to move this piano up the stairs? And they said $100 a step for 2 guys. So $700. And I'm thinking, man, we don't have $700. And right then I just went, God, please, I'm thinking inwardly toward my soul, Creator, I need help with this. And the instant it was a flash of light, I swear this is exactly how it happened. The voice told me to walk outside the doors and stand there, and 2 guys would be coming up the street, and ask them and they will help. This is all happening in less than 1 minute. I look at Darren and Michaela, I go, God told me what to do. Hang on, I'll be right back. Help's on the way. And I'm like, this is crazy. So I walk out onto the side, right outside the doors, right underneath the sign. And here come 2 guys walking up the street. I go, hey, can you guys help us move a piano? And they go, sure. Turn around. I walk. This is all less than a minute. I walk in with 2 guys behind me and go, never doubt the power of asking the Creator for help in a situation.
Absolutely, man.
They were looking at me like this. And we moved the piano up. I gave them guys each $5 and said, go buy yourselves a coffee and a bagel or something. And they out the door they went, never saw them again. So when you need something, man, when you work moment to moment knowingly, the synchronicities happen because you're aware of it. God doesn't want your obedience. He doesn't want you on your knees. He wants your recognition, and he wants to work with you. That's the beauty of this kind of a message. It's not a belief. It's an active interpersonal relationship of your own divinity, which is the great secret of Hermeticism and alchemy, the unification of opposites. He wants you to master your life, and he will meet you halfway. That's the patience factor. Is the universe doesn't always come to you immediately. Sometimes it does, though. But if you can work towards something knowingly with your recognition of that divine source within you, call it what you will, Creator, truth, God, one, whatever you want to call it, it's that white light within you that centers your divided hemispheres. It's the acknowledgement of it. And that's what moves the universe in terms of mastering oneself and one's life.
Matthew, we were talking, and what's come to me is to let your audience know that we'll just say the religions of the world, if you will, they speak of an external God. And that's the other separation point between our teachings and what's out there. We speak of the divine that is within, and people have difficulty accepting that. And Leo knew that, and that was one of her sayings, is that the greatest challenge for any individual is to first recognize and accept their divinity, and then the next challenge is living it. It's a big hurdle for a lot of people.
Really, truly.
Yes.
And science completely removes any chance of divinity. And they've created through Cartesian dualism the mind-body problem, which their neuroscientists are running around like mice in a cage trying to find the cheese, which is consciousness.
Yes.
They don't understand, which brings me to this clip prior to the Pope clip. Okay, we're going to play this clip right now.
All right.
This is perfect. So stand by just for a second. This
You
is
got
Neil deGrasse Tyson and why we don't follow E = MC squared here at the university. Here we go.
All right.
This is science. It's not something to toy with. It's not something to say, I choose not to believe equals MC squared. You don't have that option. When you have an established scientific emergent truth, it is true whether or not you believe in it.
What do you think of that hubris?
Whoosh. Well, let's give him an invitation, Matt.
There you go.
Tell him to come on in to the museum. We'll straighten him out. We'll change
Yeah.
his life for him.
It really would. I mean, anybody, especially academicians that have come in my 7 years to this message, their lives change.
Well, I want your audience to know that, we're just kind of winging this, but it's interesting that you put that clip up, because in the archives a couple weeks ago, I discovered a letter that Dr. Russell wrote to Einstein, and I made some copies of it. And basically,
awesome.
in a nutshell, Dr. Russell says to Einstein, first of all, I don't appreciate you stealing my science, but if you're going to steal it, at least you could get it right.
Right.
So it's a scathing 4 or 5 page letter of Dr. Russell to Einstein saying, yeah, I don't appreciate you stealing it, but if you do, my God, man, could you at least get it right? What I wrote down. So
he had half of it.
Yeah,
Doc said
exactly.
He had half. I think I've seen that letter back in 2015. I spent a lot of time in the formative years prior to the move of all this art, getting familiar with the archives and stuff. But that's one for the record books.
So we might be able to get that reformatted, and we might even be able to put that in a little booklet. I think the world would find that interesting.
Yeah. You got the archives, the philosophy archives up on the site. Put it up there, and if you do, let me know, and I'll link to it.
All right, beautiful. Yeah,
that brings us to our next clip, and we've got to keep on the science end of this because it's
all right.
Interesting. There's a lot of historical stuff, but this is one of the most interesting clips that came out of the 1953 lecture series, if I'm right, 53, possibly 54, but. This is one where Dr. Russell is discussing why he didn't reprint the Universal One. And a lot of people say that, or thought at least, myself included in the beginning, that it was because his science changed, when it's actually, when the Pope issues a decree from Rome, and in the days of 1930, 31, when this would have happened, you don't work again. Ever, anywhere in the United States or in Europe, or for the most part anywhere, because that was like being issued a death sentence for your career. Yeah. So it might have been partially out of that trope that Doctor decided not to reprint it, but it definitely, you could tell in his voice that he was serious, and he even goes on to say that people disappear, meaning they don't come to work the next day if you violate the Pope's decree. So we're going to listen to that now, and just this is 1953, and real quick, guys, I'm going to show you this again. But if you go to the store, philosophy.org store, I'm not advertising Mike Lindell's pillows here, but this is Dr. Russell's red pills, if you will. Get the audio lecture series. It's absolutely fantastic. You can get all 3 of them for a bundle price, 1952, 53, 54, which is nearly 120 hours of Doctor lecturing, and they were all cleaned up, redigitally mastered by then Chief Science Officer and Chief Archivist Darren Colomb. So yeah, let's roll that clip real quick, and I'll come back to you and we'll discuss it.
20 years ago, I don't know what would have happened to me. I probably would not have been permitted to stay around this planet much longer. Well, you remember, just as Jesus, supposing he had said to these people that his voice could be heard all around the world at that time, they probably would have stoned him right there and then. Now, such as the strength of false doctrine on the earth today, that if you bring true doctrine, it will be so vitally resisted that one's life would not be safe. I mean just that. Just mean just that. So I could not have published it many years ago. The effect on the Catholic Church alone might have caused that. In fact, even when the Universal One was published, I was notified that if I continued to publish that, the Pope Rome would issue a decree against it.
Well, isn't that something?
There's some history the world doesn't know, right?
He says when you bring true doctrine against the world's false doctrine,
Yes.
it makes you unsafe. And he said, I mean just that. I would not have been permitted to exist any longer on this planet. That's hardcore, dude. And that shows you the reach and the power of the church and the authorities of that day, which gladly, in my mind, are waning, and more people are seeming to come to being more invitive of new knowledge and new information, especially.
Matthew, your audience is aware of your your history and your background and your involvement with the university, right? And the most frequent question that we get, either via emails or people that come in and visit the museum, and they just have that astonished look on their face, and it's like, how is it possible for one person to achieve and do what this man did, and they never heard of him in their lifetime? That's the great enigma.
That was my number one question in my 7 years. How come I never heard of this guy?
But Dr. Russell's science, and like you said, Matt, his doctrine of truth was so opposite of world thinking, not only at the time, but basically still is. But my firm belief is that the world is now ready, without question. The seekers of there's got to be something else. And so I'm glad that we have it, and Matt, had you and I and the other folks involved hadn't pulled this thing out of hibernation, it had disappeared.
Well, there certainly wasn't much. There was no temperature control in the storage of the art. Fortunately, I do give credit to the people who packaged it and wrapped it so well.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God they did that, because
yes,
we did encounter a few pieces that had mold that had to be cleaned. We encountered a few things that had damage from mice, rodent, things like that. But the majority of that artwork was still pristine when we moved it and when we unpackaged it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thankful every day for that, and the paintings we got back, and but this is the problem with, again, it's the road to hell is always paved with good intentions, but it is never paved with clarity.
That's right.
Right. So being good stewards in the effort to protect a master's work is the best thing that somebody could do, is have that respect that comes with, the work that a master does. These are the giants on whose shoulders we stand. And without them, the human race does not progress. So,
yes. The other day, not the other day, but I'm thinking back months ago, and I was thinking of my purpose and how to move this message forward, and how, really how important is this, my efforts and what we're trying to achieve here. And when this invasion of Russia, of Ukraine, took place, it kind of stopped me in my tracks. And I said, wow, now there's a gauge, a measurement of where humanity is, as a whole, to allow such atrocities to take place in this day and age, right? The Russells always said that they just could not believe, because the greatest wrong of man is his inhumanity to his fellow man.
To other men,
And
yeah.
so that is a good measuring tool, you know. And when I saw that, it reinforced to me why this message is so important.
And then there's the book Atomic Suicide,
Whoosh, man.
which I recommend everybody get. And there's your 20% off. That should be in every library on the planet.
Yes.
It's one of the most important books ever written. It's the second book I read in the course of the Russell study, the first being The Secret of Light. But Atomic Suicide is really it talks about why we shouldn't use radioactive fission as a power source or as weaponry, and it does so in a very convincing way,
Oh yeah.
not otherwise hear about. But that is a very real thing that we face now, John, is here we are, the year 2023.
Mm-hmm.
We're literally teetering on the edge of an all-out nuclear Armageddon, World War III, because of ignorance. And I don't fault one side or the other. I blame both because
Mm-hmm.
it's childish. It's
Yes.
posturing, but there's also a lot of political reasons why this happened that we won't get into on this show. I've covered it in other, in particular, my first tech podcast, my reboot with Mike Hagan and John Cheliak. We discuss, Putin's reasons in very plain terms. But nonetheless, the point I think the Russells made in Atomic Suicide was it takes two to tango. And if you have two armed nuclear powers who have the consciousness of primates posturing, it's going to end in a dance that would result possibly in another asteroid belt, which would be very unfortunate. That brings to mind a quote that Charles Hardy in his book, A Worthy Messenger, when he asked Dr. Russell, what was the cause of the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter? And Dr. Russell looked him sternly in the face and said, "It did not explode from natural causes." So that means whatever race lived on that planet blew itself to pieces. They pushed their atmospheric containment too far out, and like a inner tube in a tire ruptures when there's too much force of air. That's exactly what happened. So
I want to give your audience a follow up on that, Matt, because having lived with Leo, she actually gave me a detailed story on the asteroid belt, a little more in depth than what you
this
shared.
will be interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
And you got to understand now, I'm barely 21 years of age. I'm still a little naive and young yet, right? Here I'm living and listening to this cosmic conscious illuminate. But anyway, she shared with me how the human race had achieved such high technical advancement of nuclear weaponry and so on. And she said, we literally blew the planet up. Okay, that's where we were technologically and so on. And the part that was, I actually couldn't follow her. I wasn't ready yet to understand what she was trying to share with me. But she was saying that force and how it disrupted the solar system for that certain amount of time, okay, it prevented the human race from evolving on Mars because it pushed out Mars too far. Because that window that we have for life in the solar system on this planet, it's not that wide. It has to be just perfect for us to do what we do and to manifest life on this planet. And so she said we missed an entire cycle of evolving, on what we know as planet Earth. So until this Earth moved into this cycle, and then she said, we just picked up right where we left off. So look where we are today. So it was a great lead in on your part to see where we are. It's like, how stupid can we be? This is ridiculous. And I love you mentioning atomic suicide, Matt. And you remember there at the beginning, the Russells say that their premise is that oxygen and radioactivity cannot coexist on this planet,
Right.
right? And if man puts a certain amount of that in the atmosphere, we're done. So they said, well, we hope we're wrong. Okay. So if people will look out throughout the world and see what is happening, you know, so Mother Nature will heal herself. And you remember what Doctor said, Matthew? He said it would be the weather conditions that would bring man back to God. So
To get them to pay attention to their
you got it.
warnings.
You got it. So, but isn't that a fantastic book, though, Matt? You know, Karen Elkins reached out to me.
Mhm.
You know, she's the lady that did the science stage.
Yep.
Yeah, she took Dr. Russell's Secret of Light and modernized it. It was beautifully done. So we've had a discussion here in the last couple of days. She wants to do the same thing with with atomic suicide.
Oh, that'll be great.
And her and Tina,
Publication.
they want to relaunch it as if it was just written. So anyway, we're going to work with her, and we'll see what we can come up with that.
That's great. Let's see here. I believe I've got her website. If this is correct, you might be able to tell me. I'll share it and you let me know.
If you could, while you're doing
right?
that,
Does that look right to you?
Yes. Yeah, that's her work. Yep.
Okay. So sciencetosagemagazine.com, guys, if you want to check it out.
Yes.
Do you have any more to say on that, John?
Well, she did ask me. I don't think your audience would be interested in this, but we need a little help. But if you could find a workable PDF, Matthew, in your archives for that and share that with her.
Oh, of the atomic suicide?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think Michaela should have all that.
All right. All right.
But yeah, there may be a way to contact one of the printing companies too and have them send
Okay.
a
All
master file if they've got it. Well, yeah, very cool, John. Very cool.
Yes. Yeah. I thought your audience would like to know that, yeah, even though it was written in 58, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe a little earlier. And so they said if they were right, mankind had about 100 years to get his act together.
Right.
So clock's ticking.
Yeah. Right.
Clock's
Exactly.
ticking.
The planet that was between Mars and Jupiter, in some accounts, was a watery planet, 16 times the size of Earth.
And that's something.
And Mars being so close to it and having its fledgling life, if that was, as she said, wiped out, then yeah, that whole future for mankind on that planet, due to its close proximity, when Tiamat is the planet that it was called by some.
Oh wow, I like that.
Ancient worlds, ancient civilizations, I should say. And when that exploded with the water, that is what is the account of the Epic of Gilgamesh, or the flood story.
Okay.
Why it rained for 40 days and nights. All that water frozen from the explosion, once it entered the atmosphere, just rained down on the earth and basically propelled the earth into a quicker form of revolution, if you will.
Yeah, sped up the cooling process.
Yeah, and so yeah, it's an interesting thing to consider these. Dr. Russell.
Yeah, you didn't. We didn't hear that in our 6th grade science class, did we? Isn't it funny in models? So when they do models of the solar system, they never show the asteroid belt. They just show like it doesn't exist, right?
Yeah. Let's erase that shadow from history.
Yeah, we don't need that. Yeah.
Psychologically, it's just going to set us back to deal with our failures from previous incarnations. But yeah, John, I'm going to roll another clip.
All right.
Take a short break. Do so. It's about a 3 minute and some second long clip. It's called Cosmic Life. Basically, it's a excerpt from Dr. Russell's, I believe, 52 lecture series, where he talks about living a cosmic life from the mind. And we'll go into a little bit of that after this clip is finished. So bear with me here. We'll be right back.
All right, buddy. I'll be right here.
Concept of something you desire to do You must have the desire to do and know what you want to do before you form a concept. It is out of desire that the concept springs. Now, the desire, say, to manifest to creation, no matter what it is everything you manifest is part of the whole idea of creation. Now, the whole idea of creation is in everyone, all of it. The completion of the whole thing is in everyone's mind. And it is there, not only all of it, but all of the man's destiny of its unfolding is there in the very beginning of the formation of a body. Because the concept of the Creator must unfold through the destiny of the creation itself to the very end. It's there. Now we, being universal, being mind, there being only one mind, we have within us the knowing of the whole idea of creation. We desire to take it apart and express one unit of that idea. Just one thing, that which is our desire to do. Whether it is for a motive for a musical composition, or, as you say, a monument of the Mount Twain money. So let's examine that. What does desire spring from? Desire to create springs from the mind, desire to manifest in body. He who feels the rhythm of the heartbeat knows the way. And he need never be told about it by textbook or school. The more he becomes aware of his own relation to the universe, the more he feels that rhythm of the heartbeat, and the more he knows that rhythm is expressed by waves. The more he becomes aware of thought waves in the universe, balanced thought waves that have in them a rhythm of their own, an octave rhythm, a series of motions within motion, a series of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, within the 1, 2, 1, 2 of the heartbeat. The 1, 2 of the heartbeat is a division of the undivided non-motion into the 1, 2 of the divided universe, through which the motion, between which the motion of thinking is extended and retracted in series of actions and reactions. Now we have no need for those actions and reactions of thinking until we first have the concept for which we wish to put those actions and reactions into motion.
Good stuff.
Isn't it?
You know, Matthew, I never get tired of listening to Dr. Russell's voice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and out there in the world, and unless, I remember when you put it out there to the world for the first time, nobody had even heard his voice recorded.
Well, there were CDs. They had a few lectures, but they were all on CD. But
Yeah.
the main body of the lectures, Darren discovered those in the warehouse and was able to transfer them all, digitally remaster them and clean them up and bring his voice forward in a way that hasn't been done before. So
Yes.
yeah, I encourage everybody, and I'll put this up there just one more time and maybe even again, but you want to really get an even more advanced understanding of Dr. Russell's work after reading the books. I would recommend you get the Divine Iliad set. There's the science set. There's all kinds of great specials that the university's offering now that I wasn't able to do when I was there because I was limited on my time. But this coupon will get you 20% off. Get the lecture series, guys. It's wonderful. You'll really enjoy it.
Yes. And the language that Dr. Russell uses, and for your audience, Matt, just to kind of give them a perspective, here is a man that every 7 years of his life had illumination. And, Kimberly Faith doing her Russell experiences here at the museum. I think, Matt, you're going to bring that up a little later, but the participants asked me to explain to them, illumination. We refer to Dr. and Leah Russell as illuminates, and that was foreign to them. They didn't really understand what that meant. And but when you have that communion, that severance, and you're on the other side, if you will. But the beauty about Dr. Russell is, there's a saying today, been there, done that. Well, let me tell you something. Our boy Doc, he went on the other side, had a few, had a few discussions with the big guy, and comes back to tell about it. All right. Isn't it funny, Matt, in today's politics here in the country, they have the scandal going on with the administration and how Hunter Biden refers to his dad as the big guy. Well, Doctor had his own big guy, all right, if you will.
The real big guy.
The real big guy, that's right. But try to imagine.
Guy, please stand up.
Yeah, with a real big guy, yeah. And to me, when I hear Dr. Russell talk about the divine, the within, the light, and to have knowingly experienced that. And here's a great little piece of trivia for your audience, Matthew. I believe it's in that Clara Clemens letter. I'm pretty sure that you posted on the website. But Doctor was explaining to her what it's like on the other side, what people think is the other side, death and heaven, whatever. And this just stunned me, how Dr. Russell said to her that there were only 3 known entities to have ever left their body through illumination, go through the 9 gates, the 9 inert gases to the other side, quote, to the big guy, and then the journey back through all 9 gates and get back in their body to tell about it. Yeah, there it is, Matthew. Awesome. And so anyway, he says to her that of the 3, it was Krishna, Jesus, and himself. And I thought, wow, now that's keeping some pretty good company. Right? But nowhere, I don't think, in the course of human history written down. And here Dr. Russell explains to Clara what her husband, Osip Gabrulowitz, is doing, where he is on the other side, how beautiful it is. And Doctor gives you the scientific explanation of the layers of our atmosphere and so on. It is remarkable. So anybody that has a deeper curiosity into, what is beyond the senses, whew, man, that's a great one. So I appreciate you showing that there, Matthew.
You got it, brother. You got it. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things about illumination. Of course, Doctor wasn't familiar, at least as to the degree that Dr. Richard Morris Buck was. Buck wrote, of course, Cosmic Consciousness, released in 1901, which he basically put forth 40 people that he felt had achieved that state of divine illumination or severance from body by becoming holy mind, which the Russells so brilliantly explain that to become holy mind or that this illumination scientifically is a short circuit of the hemispheres or the 2 lobes of the brain, which I've never heard that before reading their work. And I was always curious, what is this state that Paramahansa Yogananda talked about, the thousand suns of the mind?
Yes.
Where there is no shadow. It's pure light, the light of the living God itself, which is the living consciousness behind the entire universe. But once it divides, then you have it expressed as light and shadow, right? Which is basically the unconscious and the conscious in Freud's or the subconscious and unconscious in Freud and Jung. And then all of psychology today, we have these shadow and then these light types of personality and things of that nature, but there is a divine personality that is not very, very well known, very well studied. And that always interested me because of my own experience at the age of 9. I had
Mm-hmm.
very penetrating flashes of light, and I was called to the top of a 100-foot tall oak tree, which you cannot forget this. I mean, it's something that changes you permanently. But I had always known, and I've written poetry about this particular experience and how I fell to the world and became very materialistic and very almost hedonistic to a degree. Everybody goes through a period of hedonism in their lives where the pleasure principle is greater than the reality principle, and you should come out of that pleasure principle eventually. Who was it? John Adams. The most famous quote he never said was, if you're not a liberal by age 25, you have no heart. And if you're not a conservative by age 35, you have no brain.
Oh, wow.
I
Well,
guess,
that kind of wraps up our interview. Matt, thank you for inviting me. No, I'm just-
but that's just part and parcel to, we all go through that stage where the body is stronger than the mind. And
Yes.
it's usually the 20s and the 30s, early 30s at least. But until a man and a woman really get a family and gain a different sense of what their system of work and value and things are, there are those people who live the hedonistic lifestyle their entire lives, constantly searching for the pleasure principle, which is always external.
Oh,
And
yes.
that will lead you to psychopathy. And there's
Yes.
plenty of examples, people, I can point to. They're leading corporations. They're marching in the streets every day. You see it. You don't need me to provide the eye view candy. You can see it yourself. Just look at the front page of a newspaper. But the other side of that is, again, when you achieve the psychological term for it is reality principle and embrace that, you're not concerned any longer with immediate gratification. You're willing to work for something that might be 7 years away, like the birth of a museum or the rebirth of a legacy or your own legacy for that matter. So these are great things that we can do in terms of understanding how working with that divine mind light within us can help us achieve masterful lives for ourselves.
Absolutely,
And
Matthew.
two
You
great
know, when,
people in the Russells are great examples of that.
yeah, because the Russells use the expressions sensing versus knowing.
Right.
And they both exist, right? And they both exist simultaneously. And it's which one do you choose to spend the most time doing? Because this body is a powerful thing and it's a wonderful thing. Without the body, we would have no purpose on this earth because we already know everything, right? But you can't feel anything without a body. And our body is set at the same vibratory rate and scale as this material plane, and it's a wonderful thing. But people, someday they'll come to that awareness that they're not their body. They're a microscopic dot of light that just happens to be housed in these bodies, right? And it's a wonderful thing. So I don't want to, discredit completely, the body and body dwelling and so on. But what saddens me today, Matt, because I'm old enough, I guess I'm called old school, or I reflect back to old school. But the thing that saddens me today is this body worshiping, and I'm not putting a label on it, good or bad, but it just I just don't understand it. And if people would spend as much time seeking the light within as they do worshiping their body, they might find a different existence and a more beautiful way of life.
Lori and I were talking about this very thing yesterday, and my son's here visiting, and we were discussing, remember, do you have a tattoo? I have to ask.
A tattoo?
Yeah.
What's that?
Okay,
No, I'm
so
just kidding. No.
the cosmic jester strikes.
Yes. No, I do not. But
Okay.
I remember. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Follow-up question.
Yes.
Remember when it was cool to get a tattoo? When it was rebellious, right? We're
Well,
talking
only
like the early
only
80s,
military.
maybe early 90s. But now everybody has one. And I'm thinking, man, I'm glad I didn't get one because now I'm the rebel. I don't even have to do anything.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
everybody's got them now. So it's like, where's the fun? I thought we were doing this because nobody else was doing it. And now everybody's doing it. So that's just interesting. Again, there's that cycle. Things are popular and then they spin, they turn upside down. And that's just the nature of life, man.
And, Matt, unfortunately, it's like people that have addictions and they'll take them down that damn rabbit hole as far as they want to go. But eventually, they're going to bottom out, right? And then they're like, what? And then only then do they seek the divine within at that point. But just think of the misery and the heartache they could have prevented if they took the same amount of effort and time and looked within.
Right.
Instead of just. So anyway, that's part of life's experiences, right? It's what makes us.
I think that's what we all have to come to. Some people call it the moment of catharsis. It could be a car accident, something that lands you in a coma, something that, a divorce, something that breaks you down mentally, emotionally, physically.
Yes.
And we've all hit bottom in our lives. I don't know anybody that hasn't. But the good thing about hitting bottom, people, is the only way left to go is up.
Yes.
And speaking of up, we could talk a little bit about that forward direction, or we could just let that go. Either way, I think, John, that you hit the nail on the head. We sort of self-impose or self-inflict mediocrity upon ourselves, and Doc said it best. It is self-inflicted.
Oh yes.
We're all guilty of it.
Yep.
To some degree in our lives. I ran around in my 20s like I was king of a castle, and I didn't even have a home. So. I was kind of just lying by the seat of my outfit. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the clothes were more me than I was. We wear these brands, right? You see people wearing brands. What is a brand but something you stick in the side of a cow to connote that it belongs to you?
Mm-hmm.
So when I got out of brand worship in my 20s, right, I got more into the music. And then I started discovering video. Video was like, oh my God, this is cool. And it started out as parody, but these little things come to you, these little hints, these creative things that you can get involved with. And I hear a lot of people say the same thing. In their 20s, they were running around like, the physical body was the most important thing. But I think with age, like anything, a fine wine ages with time. Orson Welles said it best, when you're ready, when the soul is ready to emerge, nothing's going to stop it. If it's meant to be, and it's going to come. So when bad things happen, you don't see it at the time. And perhaps one of my most thankful moments was when I did hit bottom, because 3 days later, I found the book, The Secret of Light. Okay.
Now, are you referencing the lightning strikes?
No,
This is before that, or after that?
This is after.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story. I'm not ready to tell the world that story. But
Hey, that's unreal. Yes.
When God wants you to go a certain direction and you go against that direction, there's sometimes
resistance.
You don't want the lightning bolt teaching.
No.
It's not.
Not the preferred route.
And I'm one of the lucky ones. I didn't check out of the planet that day, so.
I mean, for most people, Matt, to survive, a lightning bolt nearby, that's like rare. But
yeah, 3 right next
to
lightning
bolts within, so yeah. So
when your hair stands up, like you're touching a magnetic ball with electricity blasting through your body, that tells you right there. And the smell of burning granite was another reason why you don't do certain things in the
Well,
world.
Matthew,
Anyway,
your audience needs to know that you're one of the probably only people that have ever vocally challenged God and survived.
well, yeah, I had a big problem with the big G
Woo!
back around the year 2000. Yeah, but
Yeah, I'll
that's
let you tell that another day. Yeah.
yeah. When you make a journey to Devil's Tower, and you know, you call out Satan and you call out everything else in the universe, and
Yeah.
it's an
Yeah.
yeah. Save that for another day, brother. But
All right.
let's go back to some of the work at the university. I
All
know
right.
you recently befriended about a year and a half ago a lady by the name of Kim. Would you like to just describe Kim Faith's events and what she's up to and how she's doing these really amazing Russell experience workshops at the university? And maybe you could promote that a little bit. I'll bring it up on screen while you're
All
talking
right.
about it. People, you can register, you can make a weekend out of it. Staying in the Shenandoah Valley of the Blue Ridge Mountains is one of the most beautiful experiences you'll ever get. There's great breweries, eateries, wineries,
Mm-hmm.
distilleries, kombucha shops, and just really, it's really an eclectic experience. And John, while you're talking about it, I'll go ahead and share some of that on the screen for people to
Very
see.
good. So Kimberly Faith came to the museum. I think it was the same week, Matthew, that I took office, and she came into the museum. I just happened to be here and gave her a personal tour, and she just fell in love with the place. And I want your audience to know, and this is that golden thread that I think that attaches to all of us, is that we think we're the only ones out there that have these thoughts, about enlightenment and divinity and different things. And you're not. You're not alone. And that's what this museum is. It's a magnet. It is a magnet for those people that are ready. All right. And Kimberly was ready. Same thing in her life. She tells her story to where, her husband, her family, his family didn't have any interest in any kind of spiritual conversation, perhaps, maybe outside of, the Bible and Orthodox Christendom and so on. She fell in love with this place. And over the next few months, she went into solitude and she created this program called the Russell Experience. And whether you're a 3-month or 30-year Russell student, these experiences are absolutely wonderful. She introduces you to the Russells. She introduces you to the artwork, to the science, and then she also gives you experiences, personal experiences to where you can live this message and to have like-minded people, like-minded thinking around you. It's a wonderful thing. And the last one that we did this past early in January, Matthew, for me as president, I do participate in them. They're fantastic, and Kimberly gives me certain cues of things that she wants me to do. But as president, I stand back, and over a 3-day period, you witness this transformation of people, and then the light comes in, the light bulb goes on, and it truly changes their lives. And so she's done a wonderful thing here for us. She's a very successful corporate trainer and motivational speaker on her own. But when she found the museum, she found Dr. and Leo Russell, it changed her life too. So she has completely dedicated her life to getting this message out through these experiences. And so I want to encourage your audience to go online, take a look at the Russell Experience, sign up for one, and watch your life get changed. And so this is one of the many things that we have going on here at the museum. And Matt, I think it would be good at this time just to share with the audience that even though we are the University of Science and Philosophy, the Russells explained that we're not an orthodox teaching educational system. We're not for the masses. Our teachings are for an individual journey. So you purchase our home study course, you go about it at your own pace, your own understanding, and it's a lifetime study. So you talk about a value, you talk about a deal, right? Hell, you can't even buy a book at a common university for $200. And at the end of the semester, end of the year, you throw it away and you got to go buy another one. Where our home study course for $250 and being discounted to you and have it be a lifetime study is a tremendous value for people. And I know I treasure mine. And it's interesting how, note to all students, when you open up your first unit, the Russells encourage you highly, do not lend your home study course or any part of it to anyone. It's your own private journey. It's your own private pace and so on. So there it is. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Matthew. And to get this new colorized edition, the new format, we did away with the 1958 typewriter look, but we did keep the double spacing. And some people might think, wow, why is that? Well, the Russells were brilliant. In that double spacing, that's where the silence is. So these new ideas that you're going to experience when reading that's where you get a chance to take that pause. And the Russells knew that. And it's beautifully done. So yeah. So we have something special here, Matthew, and I hope that your audience can share with others to come visit us if they can in their lifetime, or go online and just find what resonates with them. Matt, here's something we could leave with your audience. Our homecoming in September, our theme was moving into the future, living a life triumphant.
Mm-hmm.
And if the world could just embrace that understanding and to live a life triumphant means that you give of yourself to the world more than you ever take from it in a given day. And if the world could just do that one time, the whole world would be transformed overnight. So that's our wish. That's our dream. And Matt, driving to and from work, it's an hour drive for me each way, but I do get a chance to see beautiful people and beautiful things in my drives. I see people picking up trash to kind of enhance their neighborhood, little things like that.
Make the world a little bit, make it about
Yes,
right?
Just those little things. It's the little things in life that mount up. So
I think too that stresses the point of leaving the pleasure principle behind and moving into the reality principle.
yeah,
Where, the reality principle is taking responsibility and putting the responsibility of leaving this world better than when you found it as a core principle and guiding light of your life. And it doesn't necessarily have to be through the study of Walter Russell Leo or
that's right.
Nikola Tesla or anyone. It could be just following your inner light, to the absolute degree that you can. And by default, you automatically live these principles.
Matthew, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Sure, go ahead.
My neighbor is a prime example of that, right? Just never heard of the Russells. He could care less,
Mr. Clapper?
Mr. Clapper, yes.
Yeah, not to be confused with the ex-CIA director, James Clapper.
No, not that guy. Even though they look very similar, I must admit.
You have the same name, right?
Yes. But he lives that life triumphant, and he helps me, in so many ways, and not just me, but others. And the man truly gives. And it's wonderful to witness that. And I can never repay him. I can never give him enough back because he doesn't want that. Like you said, Matt, humility is one of those 5 key ingredients. And but just to have your audience just look about the world, look about your community and your fellow associates at work and so on, your immediate family, and try to see the good and the beauty in all things and all people, and then that'll be reflected back to you.
Mhm.
It's that simple.
And in
It's not
making
anything difficult.
self-improvement, right? In making
Yes,
self-improvement, you make the world a better place. But it
absolutely.
all starts in here,
Yep.
you know.
Yep.
So the world is a reflection, as Leo would say, and the
Yes, it
people you
is.
meet are a reflection of your state.
Hmm.
So the rest of the world and the universe as a mirror, which we could show the mirror cube, but I think people have seen it in my work a lot
Okay.
to recall it in their mind. The mirror cube this is a mirrored universe of reflected motion based on the thought that puts the motion out. So
Now
that would
let's add one more thing to that.
go ahead.
But in that motion and in that reflection, it is all an illusion because the thought never leaves mind. It's just projected on the cinema of creation, right? And for people that might be struggling emotionally and so on, why would you put emphasis on an illusion of something that isn't even real and then allow those emotions to affect you and affect those around you? And if you just realize that, become to know that understanding that, wow, this desk that I'm sitting at, this chair, these walls, they're just an illusion being projected through mirrors, right? And
A very convincing one.
oh yeah, though, for sure.
Because it's the old, well, I can hit you in the head with a brick and tell me it's not real, conundrum.
Well,
But really the thing to keep in mind, folks, here is it's not the new age kind of oneness that we say this. What illusion actually means is temporality, that no object in existence has infinite lifespan.
that's correct.
And if it did, that would be the true reality. But the true reality behind the temporality of motion, which you could call it natural intelligence as opposed to AI, right?
Hmm.
So the natural intelligence of this universe, it limits its expression to timed periodicities, or other words, lifetimes. Planets have lifetimes, moons have lifetimes, comets have lifetimes, suns, stars,
Hmm.
galaxies have lifetimes, cells have lifetimes, DNA strands, things of that
Hmm.
nature. I mean, how often does the skin replace its own layer? Every
That's
so
right.
many days, right? So
Yes.
everything is literally temporal. That is a physical existing object in the three-dimensional universe. And with that in mind, it's good for you to know that you've got a limited time for your mind to express itself through a body or a spacesuit called a body, which allows you to experience temporality, time, motion, the 18 dimensions of the soul substance light, as Dr. Russell
Yes.
called it in the Universal One. And they explain in the home study course what are the best ways to utilize as a creator your time and to best put forth your mind to helping you create and express your desires onto this screen of space, and that your timeless creations from your inspired mind and heart will live far beyond your temporal body.
Oh
And
yes.
that's what stands in that museum as a demonstration of one man's heart and mind and his wife's effort to balance his giving to the world of that art, which she was a huge part in doing so, and the
Hmm.
philosophy behind it. That's the
Yes.
important part, the living philosophy, not the dead ones that are out there.
Right. Yes.
And the renewing of
Matt.
man's mind is the living philosophy. Because
Yes.
as Walter said, great men and women come alive at 40. Mediocre minds begin to die at 40.
Mm.
And so that's an important thing to remember, that the renewal of your mind you can always get into new stuff. If you're tired of painting, go to sculpting. Pick up and
Yes.
learn how to play guitar or play
Yes.
piano. When did you start playing piano? You do
Yes.
very well for a lefty. I have to say.
Well, coming from a fellow lefty, I appreciate that.
Who taught himself Moonlight Sonata, which I can't even play.
Wow, I got to tell you. Matt, for your audience, I want to point something out that I want your audience to know. Guys, Matt is very brilliant technologically, and he masters this stuff. But I don't know, like this broadcast, I didn't know if Matt had written a script, and I didn't know where it was going to pick up, and leave off. So when he was giving that demonstration, talking about the brick hitting your head, I didn't know if he was going to have Lori, his wife, grab a brick and hit him, and then he falls off the chair, and her say, "Well, Matt, now was that real or was that an illusion?" So I'm glad she didn't do that, Matthew.
No, she's not in this room, fortunately.
Okay.
We might not have a host at the moment. Oh yeah, watch this. She's been a great help. She's always been a balance to me, much like your Karen is. And I think the divine union of opposites is not only an important thing in your heart and your own two hemispheres, but also in your relationships.
Yes.
If you can find that soulmate, that other one that completes, and they are out there, folks. Don't ever give up on that possibility. No one has to, we weren't meant to walk through this world completely alone. Otherwise, we'd all live on our own island and never communicate with one another.
Yes. How boring would that be?
What Leo brought to Doc's life was the understanding that, and as he said when he got his divorce, after 56 years of mental cruelty, he felt as a man who had been released out of prison. And then he meets Leo shortly there, or either before or after. But point being that with her and their wonderful electrifying power of man-woman balance, they were able to work together, which multiplied their power by 8 times.
Yes, it did.
Cube. And so, when you have a balanced mate, which is what all of nature demonstrates daily, the balanced matehood of pairs of opposites, whether it be the root and the canopy of the tree, or whether it be the various forms of male and female animal life, insects, all of these things are all examples of that balanced matehood, creating the perfect continuity that we call nature. Nature doesn't rise and fall like man's civilizations because of that continuity. And that's one of the major themes of the Russell's work, is that balance is the key. So why don't we talk a little bit about that, John? What does balance mean to you? Just how long did it take you to come to the realization that was a primary goal, a key to unlocking mastery?
Well, Matt, that's real simple. In my time with Mrs. Russell, the one word that she gave me that has carried me throughout my life is the word balance. Okay. Now, being a Libra, that was pretty easy for me. It was no struggle and understanding and so on. So whether you're decorating your living room, or if you're setting your table, or you're organizing something, right? So that something, if it's in balance, right, it doesn't catch your eye. It doesn't disturb you, right? But something that's out of balance. And then Mrs. Russell also, in that same lesson, showed me something. So when you would come into the palace, she would have a table out with all of these support books, right? And I noticed that she had them twisted. So being a Libra, my first intuition was to reach down, and I started straightening them in a nice, tidy little stack, right? And she stopped me. And she understood, while I was straightening them, but she said, "I want you to understand why I have them crooked like that." Because she was a master salesperson, master marketer, Matt. Yep. So when people would come in and they would see that table and they saw those books twisted like that, their first inclination was to reach down. And so she knew that if she could just get that book in their hand, right, she had a 50-50 shot they would probably, purchase that book. So just little examples like that. And balance. So what is balance? Balance is the what's the word I'm looking for here?
One law.
Well, it is the one law, and it's the lack of residue. You know, you mentioned earlier, Matt, about human relations and, you know, interaction and so on. And um, when you have arguments, you have disagreements, right? And there's various degrees of those, you know, and the frequency of arguments and disagreements and so on. And that shall allow your audience to understand and be a measure of compatibility. You were talking about soulmates and that kind of thing. And that's one of the beauties of our teachings, you know, with Dr. Russell's two charts of the elements, right? And showing mated pairs and that opposites do not attract.
Yeah.
You know, how about that big lie, right? That everybody still lives. Well, if opposites attract.
But the secret movie, John, the secret movie.
Yes. Yes.
We've long been on to that, brother. I mean, you read anything by Russell and you're going to come away real quick with a much better barometer of what is BS in the new age and what is actually reflective of reality.
Well, Matt, you share with your audience, you know, that without that word, how big a struggle it would have been for us to put this museum together, right?
That was the whole of it, and that's the whole of my whole life is having the one most important thing I took out of these teachings is the one law, which is balance.
Mm-hmm.
And if you apply at the very least that philosophy, that living philosophy of always trying or do as Yoda said, there is no try, do or do not. You either do balance your life or it's not in balance. There's
That's
no
right.
other option.
No.
Okay?
No.
But if you do achieve that balance and you can hold it, you access it, express it, and above all, hold it throughout every moment of every day, your life is going to become a magical thing, truly magical in every way, shape, and form. And an old friend of actually that said, Michael Tessarian said this a long time ago. And it was an honor for me to join him and David Whitehead on unslave.com, which was, I was honored to be their first guest. And he said one thing, he goes, I believe it was something along the lines of you're a true magician. And I thought, what in the world is he talking about? He said, not only can you affect people physically, mentally, and spiritually, but you also have an effect on them emotionally. And not many people can do that with their productions, you know, and I think I'm referring to my work I'd done on the Russell's work. You know, he's a brilliant man himself and a very great inspiration to me over my years of doing the work I've done. But that really, having that balance allows you to express yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally in the most powerful of ways. Because when you center yourself and you have balance as your fulcrum, as your guiding light, your creator as your guiding light, and you work knowingly with this creative force, the creative force by law, not by want or by choice, but by law, has to work with you. And that's a matter of degrees. You know, Dr. Russell, his degrees were far more than most people.
Oh, yeah.
You know? And he saw in 360 for a short minute, you know, a matter of days.
Yes, he did.
Some of us get a glimpse of 360 in literally 5 seconds, like H.W. Percival did when he stepped off the curb in New York City. 5 seconds of light changed his entire life, and he dedicated his life to writing, thinking, and destiny. But yeah, those really, that key word, rhythmic balanced interchange, is a phrase. If you need 3 words, 2 words, balanced interchange, 1 word balance. That is the great law of this universe. And it ties Hermeticism, it ties alchemy, it ties all of these ancient arts of self-discovery and the mastery of self together. And as Falconelli referred to it, it's that magic thing that few people in a century discover if they're fortunate enough and do the work.
Yes.
But it's on our doorstep, folks, and the teachings of the Russells and others like them. You know, I like to say, Doc, one major difference between his teachings and others is that he has 64 tons of art sculpture to back it up, and I know because we moved it.
Oh yeah.
So when you go into that museum, it's a living demonstration. And if you'd like to have a corporate function there, I absolutely recommend people, call the museum 1-800-882-LOVE 5683. Schedule your corporate event there. Imagine a coffee break among the most exquisite artwork. How much inspiration that would give your employees, your partners, your coworkers on that coffee break, and then they come back into the room energized and ready to go.
Yes.
That's something that I had hoped to see happen, but then long, and of course that is now completely being checked and balanced in its own way for let's just leave it there. But
Yes.
why don't you we're getting to the point of wrapping.
Yes.
We got a little bit more time here, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to cover any topics that you weren't able to get to that you'd like to talk about. Is there anything you'd like to discuss that we haven't already covered?
Matthew, the scope of what we do here at the museum and who we are as the University of Science and Philosophy. Again, we're not for the masses, but my dream and hope is that someday perhaps the masses will flock here and they'll see perhaps truth for the first time. They'll see the embodiment of what it is to live, quote, in the light. And it's a wonderful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And I wanted to mention, Matt, when you were talking about balance, okay? And Leo had another great quote, and she said that you can only have that in life which you first give. So if people were to wake up in the morning, right, and they're going through their morning routine and throughout the day, they're like, okay, what would I like to give to the world today that I would like to have reflected back to me to enhance my life and to enhance who I am? And that would be a wonderful thing if people could adopt such a thing. And I'm so blessed, Matthew, to be in this building every day. You know this, you've been here, you lived here, this building carries its own frequency. And everyone that comes through these doors, they feel it immediately. They know that there's something special here. And I would hope that your audience, every one of them, would have an opportunity to come here and feel that, to experience it.
Yeah, John, I may be one of the only people that ever slept there too.
Well, I think I did one night, but my operations guy, I think he purposely sabotaged me, right? Putting these 20-hour days in, we were building these new walls. I was exhausted. And so I pulled two chairs together and I just fell off to sleep. It's like 1:30 in the morning. And damned if he didn't leave his little mini compressor hooked up. And that thing went off, and I swear to God, I must have jumped 3 feet in the air out of those chairs. But yeah, you might be the only person that actually slept here, actually got sleep.
Right. And that was on one of those dusty old couches that came out of our house. I was so worn out, I couldn't even take my boots off, dude. I mean, I worked. There were weeks I put in 120 hours, multiple weeks in a row, and that's something. There's nothing I've ever worked harder for. But one of the things that keeps me going, John, is that if I can do that, I can pretty much do anything.
I would think so, Matthew. Yes.
So people out there, when you think you're incapable of something, push yourself a little bit. And if you're working knowingly with the creative force, the divine creator God within you, which is that white light of knowledge, which is the undivided power source, the fulcrum, which is at right angles to motion, is where you'll find that fulcrum in every living being. Every body has that. And including the production of electricity, mind you, the upward flow of electricity, which is what mind does. It flows uphill as it charges and then discharges as it flows downhill, which is why we get tired, much like a battery uses its power discharges its power. We lay it down at night, we charge it in that light, and then we discharge again in the day. It's periodic, sequential interchanges.
Yes, it is. It's
That's the
cyclic.
law of all bodies, guys. And the more you work closely with that knowingly, the more it's going to work closely with you, because it has to. That's its purpose. Is
Yes.
to complete its desires for manifestation, whether those be good or evil. That's a matter of free will.
Yes.
It can be used any way you want to use it, but you do not hold the right to the reaction of your choices. That's on nature. But
Yep.
if it's in balance, nature will reflect a balanced reaction.
Yes.
That is the key to the magic that you can create in this world. And these teachings go a long way to helping you get into that. And like John said, how is it? And I asked myself that in 2008 after I finished The Secret of Light. I closed the book and I looked at Lori. She goes, "Was it good?" I said, "My God, I never need to read another book as long as I live." And I go, how is it that nobody knows about this guy?
Yes.
And back then, few did. I think there were 200 something web matches when you searched his name on Google. Now there's
Okay.
millions.
Good.
So I like to see that the awareness of great genius has grown, that their work is firmly established out in the world again, and that their legacy is being both preserved and protected. And
Yes.
John, here's the contact page. So
Okay.
folks who want to get in contact with you, they can visit philosophy.org. They can click on the contact. There are so many great things on this website. The gallery, just the gallery alone, guys, is just packed with all kinds of things. You want to hear some of Doc's music? Click on music, check out the paintings. Here's a gallery of the science drawings. But to see these in this quality, which I got to give Ramesh Shagis some credit there for the great work he did on designing the website and things of that nature, which is a beautiful artistic expression. It does not equate or equal what seeing something like this in person with your own eyes. And when you realize that it was a chalk drawing, this is just beyond the pale of comprehension when you see it with your own two eyes. The majesty of this man's expressive creativity and ability to draw consummate paintings and drawings, teaching you of the science of light itself, which is unparalleled.
Yes, that's magnificent. And I never get tired of looking at these things, Matthew. Never.
John, what is your favorite science drawing of all? If you had to only have one that would be in your recollection, which one would you want?
Well, it would have to be Doc's first, Matthew. They're all magnificent, but you just passed it right there.
Right
The
here?
octave wave. No, up there. That's it. That's it. So it's for your audience to know, that was the very first scientific drawing that Dr. Russell did.
That was his painting, his series
Yes,
of
it's a painting. Painting, yes.
Yep.
To help with the science world to understand what he had written in the Universal One. And then there were many to follow. So all the ones that you see on that gallery, they're all magnificent. And Dr. Russell, like Matthew was saying, about 360, and you folks may not understand what that really means. But Dr. Russell was able to see the entire light spectrum. Today, science says, the light spectrum of its 360 degrees, I think it's like 5,500 bands of light. So try to imagine that one day, being able to see all of that rather than just maybe 10, 12% like the average human. So, but we're fortunate to have this and his gift to humanity. Of course, when the Creator commands it, you get it done.
That's right. And sometimes you don't have a choice.
That's it.
Especially when you commit your life to a mission, which you know not what that mission is. But, if you're not sure, walk and talk with the Creator. Tell him you're ready to, go on a path that you may not know what that path is. And all of a sudden, if you're knowing and your relationship is strong enough, I don't want to call it belief because it doesnn't require accepting something without evidence or only on faith. It requires an actual moment to moment acknowledgement of a real relationship between you and that still small voice, which is your conscience. It's becoming conscious of consciousness itself.
Consciousness. You got it. Yes.
And boy, will things begin to happen, people.
Ooh.
I'm telling you, that's sort of a living an example of living philosophy, which is living the love of wisdom.
Yes.
And we've all got information, but not all of the many of us have wisdom, which is the ability to use knowledge.
Yes.
And so that's something we can gain through a further study of the great masters and the geniuses and the giants upon whose shoulders we all stand. John, I'd like to just give you a chance for any closing thoughts, any upcoming events, things you want to share with us. And,
yes, Matthew.
We'll start to wrap.
Well, we mentioned Kimberly Faith earlier and our Russell experience. So I want to announce to your audience that we will be having 4 Russell experiences this year. Okay, you can go to our website. You can check it out for the dates and the times and so on. And we will probably have another homecoming this year. May not be in September. We might push it back just a little bit. And but if I could leave this departing thought, Matthew, to your audience,
Please.
Is that the Russells left this message to posterity, to the world. No one entity, no one group owns this. This message was delivered to them to deliver to the world. And I would like to see people embrace this and know that, wow, this is intended for me. This was meant for me. And I would love for everyone, to embrace this and to become part of this message, because they are the message. One day they'll come to that realization. They'll go, oh, wow, I am the message, and that would be a great breakthrough for a lot of people. It'd be a wonderful realization. So, Matt, I do want to thank you. You're my bro. You're my son in Virginia, in Missouri, and I know you referenced me as your pops in Virginia, and so hopefully maybe we could.
Father who art in Virginia.
In Virginia, and perhaps maybe we can do a few more of these in the future as we evolve.
Absolutely.
So thank you again, buddy. I appreciate it.
I'll be visiting you soon down the road. So say hi to everybody, the staff.
We'll do.
Everybody, all the work you've done. I couldn't have passed it off to a better crew, and you guys have become a tight family-like unit.
Yes.
It's great to see. It's great to know. I have no feelings of worry or doubt that this thing isn't in the best hands it can be in going forward. And so, John, I'm going to leave out with something that's dear to you because you've told me as such. But
all right.
So it's great to join you.
Visit
philosophy.org, folks. Enter coupon code TEC20, which is good to the end of February, and save yourself 20% off on some really incredible, life-changing material. You can buy all these books for less than $1,500 and the audio. Now, you tell me anywhere else in this world, you can't even get a chemistry book for a college class for less than $500. Okay.
No.
And you don't have to go into debt for 30 years to have life-changing knowledge at your fingertips. So I implore you guys, absolutely implore you. And I am pumping this. I'm pushing this because of what it did for my life. Okay. And if any of you are interested, maybe you're already riding the wave. Maybe you're already commanding matter and crystallizing your thoughts, your divine thoughts into forms. You don't need this. This isn't for you. But if you're looking for something that's really life-changing, that's affordable, that won't put you in debt for 35 years, and you can still, afford your car payment and the high price of gasoline and electricity and food, get yourself a Russell book. Get a package of the books. They're all on the store right there. And again, this helps preserve and protect the Russell legacy for generations to come, until man finally makes that transition from the barbaric stage into the genius stage.
Mm-hmm.
And then the stars, brother.
There you go.
There it is, folks. And with that, I'm going to roll out with the video. And John, I'll call you after this is over, and we'll just have a quick chat. But thanks again
Sounds
for
good.
coming on. I really
You
appreciate it.
bet.
I love you, brother.
Love you too, man. Thank
All
you,
right.
Matthew. All right,
Thanks,
buddy.
listeners. Appreciate you guys. And check out mattpresti.com. I'll be on Conversations with the Fringe tonight on the Red Pill News Network with Josh Reed and David Whitehead. And I'll also be joining Alpha Vedic podcast next week, as well as Vibrant with Chance Garton from the Interverse podcast. So check us out. Stay tuned for more. Aho. Cheers.